Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live. And I wanted to talk to you again. Let me show you how I start, this morning. And as I mentioned the other day, there seems to be a compulsion for me to talk. It's a very strange thing to come here, and it's like I'm being pushed. Like there's something prodding me, because there's always a little like, I haven't got anything to say. Take a vacation. It's kind of like meditation in the sense that I have a compulsion to meditate. Yet there is always a little resistance, a little take a vacation. No, the compulsion pushes you through it. So the same way with this, I find that in the morning I come down, I get my coffee. I check out the computer to see if there's anything of interest on my Facebook, and usually, nobody's asking any questions or anything. So I go sit on the porch and read whatever inspirational work I'm reading at the time, and nothing, just no reason to come in here and talk. But then something catches me, something catches my attention, something moves with inside, something says, this is my favorite line, a bodiless child full of life cries in the gloom with a frog voice, what shall I be? So this compulsion, this bodiless child full of life, moves inside and says, I want to be something. I want to be. And so then the urge to come talk. So then I come in, I put my light up, I turn on the camera, and I just come here. And I write down a topic, something comes up, and so the idea I wrote down was the turning point. The turning point. Now that's movies are made, it's a very universal idea, the turning point. Everybody has a turning point in their life. Everybody is going in some direction, and at some point they turn around because they realize the direction they're going is not fulfilling, is not giving you the satisfaction, is not giving you what you want, is not giving you the completion. It's not giving you an answer to the yearning, you see, this yearning. Something is alive in me. What is it? What shall it be? What is this living thing inside that says, what shall I be? What shall I be, you see? It's like the fetus in the womb. It's growing. It's a living thing. It's got to be born. And it has no idea what it's going to be, but it wants to be. So this is the second birth, but we think of rebirth, second birth, in Christian terms, as being joining the church, or it's a one-time thing. No, it's a continuous thing. We are continually being born. We are the unborn and the born, but as soon as we're born, the unborn wants to be born again. So it's not a noun. It's not a static thing. It's a dynamic force of life, you see, that is us. And so this, when the urge to be born, the unborn must be born, and so every moment then becomes a womb, a container. So we're constantly creating new wombs, new worlds. A world is a womb. We're creating new wombs, worlds. We live in it until we grow, and we begin to bump up against the walls of our world and say, whoa, this is a container. I feel contracted. The urge to be cannot go beyond this. So now we're into death. Something has to die in order to be. Something has to die in order to be born. What is it that has to die? Why, it's me. I have to die in order to be me. That's the paradox. Death and resurrection. And so now we're back to Christ. And the universal cross, the drama of the cross, which we mistakenly understand or limited into a historical event. You see, that's perfectly fine. It's a historical event. But it has nothing to do with my rebirth, you see, my dying and resurrection. So the dying and resurrection, translated into my life, you see, is when I feel the limitations of the world I have created, that I have created like a painter creates a paint and then lives in it. I create a world and live in it as a me, with a history, with time, with desires and goals and all that. But the turning point comes when I begin to realize that I have been just recycling my world. That I'm just constantly going over the same, doing the same thing, using different patterns, different forms, you see. It's like, and that is the Groundhog movie, the Groundhog Day. Is the realization that you're just doing the same thing over and over in different ways, hoping for a new outcome. But it's always the same. So that is the realization that what you have created, the path you have created, the world you have created, has limitations. But the compulsion to be born is the compulsion to transcend. So we are transcending beings. We are transcendent beings, which means we have to, by our nature, transcend what we have created. So the movement goes from body to mind to spirit. So body, the physical evolution has all occurred and all the species are formed and they're making adjustments now. But over the long period of time, you see great changes in species. And then man comes into being, and now we're into a mental world, and yet the mental world has limitations. The world of thinking. This world that we have now is all created by thought. Everything in this room was an idea, was a thought. This was a thought. These two go together. But they were originally ideas. Somebody had an idea, then ideas are developed, and they have a little life of so this improves, they keep better. This has low odor, see, that's better than the one that stank, you see. So they keep coming up, the ideas evolve, it's called a business. The technique, so all of these ideas, everything is an idea. Shirts, watches evolve, everything evolves, ideas evolve. But they're limited. And so at some point, this will finally be outdated and somebody will come up with a new idea. And this might be a relic then in the attic, and you say, "What? Oh, remember the days when we had to write with a marker on a board?" We're so evolved, you see. So, but this idea of evolution, this compulsion to evolve, to transcend, you see, so this is working now, but it will, when conditions change and the technologies, this will become obsolete and it'll be transcended with a new idea. This is going on rapidly today. Our cell phones, everything is evolving technology, but these are things. And the problem is now, is that we live in this world of evolving things, carried along with it. Do you realize how much we've changed in just the last 10 or 20 years with the invention, the birth of these new digital technologies, the Facebook? Imagine, we're talking live here. Into, where not too long ago, you'd have to go to a expensive studio to broadcast You see, and now this is a broadcasting station. Now I'm broadcasting to anybody on the earth can tune into this. Isn't that amazing? But all right, so this is really great technology and everything. But I remember what Thoreau said when the wireless telegraph was invented, and says, "Oh my God, you can talk to Texas now." And he said, "I haven't got anything to say to Texas." See? So you have to have, so with all this beautiful technology, what am I going to say in it? What am I going to do in it? You see, a lot of people are using Facebook Live, and they're talking in the car, and they're going to Walmart and talking about Walmart. And this is great, but it has limitations. So what am I doing here? So I want to talk about the turning point. Not about the turning point of technology, and not about the fun of being able to go to Facebook, go to Walmart, and talk about being in Walmart or whatever. See, I want to talk about the next level of evolution, which is to spirit. So you got body, physical world, biology. You got the mental world, is where we live. We live in a mental world as humans. And we like pets because they live in a physical world, and we realize a connection with them. But that gets us in touch with our ground, the physical. But normally, primordially, we all live in a mental world. And the being that lives in the mental world is me. You. Our little ego, our little self. It lives in a mental world, looking out on a world of things, and there's a limitation in that. There is a contraction. There is an isolation. There's a feeling of being alone, of not being loved, you see. And so we go to churches, and we have a Sunday experience of belonging, but then we go back in the world, and we feel contracted again. We feel separate. We feel pain. We feel the suffering of this incompatibility with the world out there. We just can't make it fit us. It just seems to be alien. As things happen, I feel a victim. I'm hurt by it, even by my body. My body won't. It gets sick, and I gotta get it fixed. My car broke down. My body broke down. It's all this isolation and limitation, this inability to be one. So that means we're evolving. We have to go to the next level. We have to go through some secret door. We have to find some trap door, some secret door, some attic door, some opening that is hidden from us. So we're looking for it, you see. And so when we find it, there's a turning point. So I was thinking about, when I look now that I'm midway through my 80th year, I can look back on the evolution that this yearning to be born has pushed me. It's pushed me through philosophies and religions. It's pushed me through jobs in the world, working in institutions. I used to work with the retarded in retarded institutions. I really were. I had my own photography business, so independent, you see. Now I'm retired and I'm living on Social Security, and yet still something pushes me. I'm constantly being reborn in many ways. I've had a few experiences where there were big rebirths, total, big, huge, gigantic realizations, life-changing spiritual experiences. But I don't know if any more of those are coming. I don't care. But the point is, like a camera flash, when you click the light, there is a momentary burst of light. So we go through these many rebirths all the time. They're called insights. And these insights are kind of like the clues that the detective follows. He's like we're like a blood, the soul, the spirit is like a bloodhound. And we kind of like, we should be able to sniff out the turning points, the clues in our life that will lead us in the direction towards rebirth. The unborn in us is always yearning for birth, but the birth is never permanent. You see, that's the point. We think it's permanent. We think the promised land will be, if I could just get that to that place, everything will be fine. No more problems. Well, that's an imaginary place. There is no place where there is no more birth. See? In other words, life is birth. Life is death and resurrection. And this is the teaching of Jesus in the universal sense. Life is death and resurrection. Unless we willingly participate in death and resurrection, we are going to be suffocating in a little world that we can't get out of, or we're afraid to get out of. We're afraid to die. We're afraid to be reborn. We are afraid of life if we are afraid of rebirth, you see. So we get confused with this rebirth, this turning point, and we think it's something final, and we think we had one, but we didn't because nothing has changed, you see. What we're looking for is not translation, not superficial change, not a rearranging of the forms of life, like getting my room painted, getting another house. That's just a rearrangement of the forms, getting a new car, even getting a new relationship. That's forms. We just rearrange the forms, you see. But what we're really yearning for is transformation. Is a transformation of the way we are being in the world. So we're in the world differently. We're in the world without the suffering and the contraction and the mental pain, the angst, the states of mind that put us into depression, anxiety, fear. We think we're all fine, and the next minute we're in this state of depression, or some mental state comes on. Is there anything beyond is there anything beyond the mental world we live in, you see? That's the question. Is there anything beyond the suffering of the mind? All suffering comes from the mind. The next stage up, the one that is hidden, you see, is the spirit, the transcendent awareness. Transcendent awareness doesn't suffer. Awareness is not contracted. Awareness is not limited, defined, imprisoned. Awareness is totally free. So where can I find awareness, you see? And why isn't that awareness the Christ? You see, when we look at the in Christianity, when we look at Christ and the teaching of the cross, we put it in history, we put it in mind. And we understand it from afar. I read about it. It's over there, you see. It's a story. It's somewhere else, you see. And then I believe in the story. I believe, and we cite the creed. We cite the doctrine. We believe, we commit to that belief, you see. But belief is in form. You don't believe in no form. You believe in form, you see. So even belief locks us into the mental world of form. So the spirit is constantly banging up against this, you see. Boom, boom, boom. Like inside the walls of being, the spirit, the soul is kicking. And we can feel it. We can feel it. Oh, kicking. Something wants to be born. I feel it kicking. I feel it kicking. Something wants to live. Something wants to be. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what it'll say. I don't know where it will go. I'm afraid of that. It's no control. here in the womb, here in the world, there's control. I'm unhappy, but at least I know what's going on. It's like a baby that clings to the mother who just abused it. You see, the mother abuses the baby, hurts the baby, and the social workers come take the baby away, or the child, and the child is saying, "Mommy." You see. So this is kind of like we love the mommy's womb. We love our world womb. We love mommy. We're afraid to be born out of the womb. We're afraid to go beyond the boundaries, beyond the pale, and discover who we are. But there comes a turning point. There comes a turning point where you can't stay in the womb. You can't stay at home. You can't stay in your old hometown. You can't stay in your old job. There comes a turning point. And usually when we reach that turning point, the world is going to change spontaneously. We may get fired. We may get divorced. Somebody may die. I may get sick. Something's going to happen in our world to crack it open. And we say, "Oh no." But there's a turning point. Life will evolve us. Life will kill us so we can be resurrected. So if we don't choose death willingly, like Jesus did, then we will be forced. Then we will be pushed like the pirate's plank. I'm going to push you off to step off the edge. No, 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 there's sharks there. So there's a fear of being born again. There's a fear of rebirth. We take the suffering. Well, I like my suffering. I like my suffering. I like hanging on the cross. At least I know what everything is. I don't know. Resurrection, that looks like that's scary to me. I'll be out of control. I can't control it. I don't know what it is. I don't know who I will be. You see, it's beyond time. It's the end of time. Christian people talk about the rapture and the end of time. Well, that's the resurrection. But it's not a resurrection of humanity. It's you. You see, everything is about you and me. It's not about humanity. It's about I. The shift comes when the truth is about I, not about it's about humanity, and you study the science and the philosophy and the religion and the anthropology and all that. That's fine. It's all about objective world out there. Has nothing to do with I. Who is the I that suffers, you see? That is where we live, but we avoid it by just looking at the world objectively. So I becomes a ghost, and I can't be reborn because we don't even recognize it. But when we recognize it and admit that I exist, that becomes a turning point. The real turning point is when you one day look in the mirror and see yourself in your true nature and you just break out laughing. I see you. Like an avatar. I see you. I see your spirit. I see your transcendence. I see your luminous light. You're not the form. The form is getting wrinkled. Oh, it's 80, it's 80 years old. The body's going to die. No, that's not who you are. You are the transcendent awareness. You are the transcendent spirit, you see, that has no form. It's aware of form, you see. You are awareness. You are aware of form, but you are not form, yet you are aware of form. It's not that you are separate from form, but form is a manifestation of you because you are aware of it, you see. So there is a mystery here that cannot be penetrated by mind. So we have to realize that this death and resurrection is the impulse of our own life, and life is spirit, you see. Life as the formless is always pushing us, is always yearning, you see. So there is no end to that. But it does move in stages. It does move so that you move from unconscious to conscious, We're moving from contraction to release. We're moving from suffering to joy. We're moving in an expansion of spirit, which increases freedom, you see. So we're moving in that direction. And the sign that we are not moving is the feeling of contraction and the feeling of I must be. Something is, the world is blocking me. You see, it's not the world that's blocking you. It's our refusal to turn. In Buddhism, there is no sin in Buddhism. There is what's called ignorance. Ignore. The willful ignoring, or the willful turning back from our evolution, from our transcendence, you see. In Christianity, it's called original sin, but ignorance is much better because it doesn't get into, it's not a stamp on one's nature. It's a turning away. And so when we realize that we've turned away, there is a turning back. There is a turning back, you see. And then life becomes integrated and open. The world opens. Suddenly there are green lights. See, oh, something's different, you see. And then we try to cling to it and the door closes again. So there's a real, the spiritual progress, the spiritual evolution is learning how, discovering how to continually die, to continually let go. When you notice that you're clinging, oh, I'll let go. When you notice that you're clutching thought and belief and certainty and suffering, when you notice that you're clutching, you notice it and you let go. The noticing lets go. So the spiritual progress, the path of resurrection, is just learning how to let go. When I let go, I'm born again. When I clutch, I'm die. I'm closed in. So it's the dance between the coffin, you know, and being born again, walking again. You know, the tomb and the womb are the same, and we're always feeling its contraction of the self, you see. And this is a good sign. It's a sign that it's time for the turning point. It's time to let go. So, anyway, thank you for dropping in, and I'll see you this evening.